Hello there, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to another budget recipe video. I truly believe that nourishing, delicious, and vegan food does not have to break the bank. So here's a week's worth of delicious recipes that'll save you some cash. Let's dive into it.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
We're starting this one off with a cup of Nescafe coffee, and some of you may be deeply offended by this, but it's a tip I have for travelers because getting a cup of coffee is sometimes such a chore and you just want your coffee moment as soon as you wake up in the morning. Hello there, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to another video. Super grateful that you're here as per always. I am back in Canada, as you would have saw at the end of last week's video. And we're doing a budget eats, and that's why you clicked on here. That's why you're here. That's why you're here. I'm gonna show you how to make some budget-friendly meals. That's the goal of today's video. I'm weird. My camera mic decided to just fail on me, so let's do a voiceover moment of this grocery haul. I got the cheapest green, which ended up being spinach, some cilantro, eggplant, onion, ginger, 2 different types of potatoes, carrots, tomatoes, tomato sauce, cabbage, which I ended up doing nothing with, garlic, and olive oil. Now this is me explaining the fact that this video is not necessarily to stay within a budget, but to make meals with ingredients that typically are budget friendly across the board. Because I could go into a grocery store and spend $50 for the week, and you could go into a grocery store and get all of the exact same ingredients, but spend $100. So I don't want to lie to you. Let's just make some meals that are typically budget friendly. Starting it off with some granola bars. They're delicious, they're simple, they are also nourishing, and you can make them with whatever you have in the house. You do not have to follow this exact recipe. All you need is oats and then anything else that you like. Chuck it in there. Some peanut butter, sweetness of choice sweetener, whether that's maple syrup, agave, or you could just mix sugar and water and make a simple syrup. A thicker one though, mix everything on together, chuck it in the freezer for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and you got really granola bars.
They look like actual granola bars. And they taste really good too.
Sorry to interrupt this one, but I have to say a massive thank you to Bellessa for sponsoring today's video. If you haven't heard of them or seen them on the internet space, I'm super excited to tell you about them and the giveaway that I am doing with them. They are literally giving away free vibrators and gift cards to vibrators. Link down below, sign up to the giveaway, and get something. Get a little something for yourself. Now, I understand that this advertisement may be uncomfortable for some people, which is understandable because there's a lot of shame around sex and sexuality in the world, unfortunately. But intimacy with ourselves and other people is not something that we should carry heavily on our hearts. What needs to be assessed in those situations is our intentions. And if our intentions are good, then that's good. A way to grow confident and comfortable with our sexuality is to get in connection with ourselves before we include anybody else in the situation. I love that we live in a day and age where there's so much opportunity for that as well. AKA Bellessa, coming in hot with the tools that you need. If you're intimidated with sex toys or don't really know where to start, I suggest trying something that's a little bit more low-key, like the Pebble. This one fits very comfortably in your hand and isn't intimidating. It's quite small, and every one comes in a cute little case, so it's discreet, super feminine, soft, and cute, which I just really love. Another one that you may want to try is the Air Vibe. This one hits the spot, and it's waterproof, so that's pretty great. But something I really love is that Bellessa is on a mission to empower everyone in their sexuality, to embrace it, explore, and celebrate it. That just warms my heart so much, and they're a buy women company, so I am all for that as well. If you want to get something for free, again, the link is down in my description box. They are sending out free vibrators and gift cards to vibrators for everyone that signs up through my link. Thank you so much to Bellessa for sponsoring today's video and hopefully providing you a great time. And some confidence in yourself as well, because that's extremely important. All right, sending you so much love, and let's get on with the food. A lot of the meals that we're going to be making today are one-pot meals. So they're not only budget-friendly, but they're also easy to throw together, and you got lots of leftovers as well, and we all love that when we're on a budget. We're starting this recipe off by sauteing up some onion and some olive oil on medium heat, chopping up some tomato in the meantime, and then chucking in that garlic along with smoked paprika, chili flakes, oregano, coriander, and cumin as well. Mixing that all together, allowing it to warm up for about 30 seconds before throwing in our sweet potato, a cup of rice, 2 cups of Brussels sprouts, why? Beef broth, tomato paste, and we're going to strain some chickpeas as well, giving them a good rinse, and then we're going to peel off the skins. I find TMI, chickpeas give me gas, and when I take the time to peel the skins off of the chickpeas, it's a lot less. Although it's a boring task, I do find it's worth it. Throwing in the chickpeas once the rice was cooked about 70% of the way, seasoning everything with a good amount of salt, just kind of taste testing as I go to make sure I'm adding the right amount of salt. Also adding spinach and coriander right before it was done as well. Plating up a big plate and thoroughly enjoying it. There was lots of leftovers, so I enjoyed this for multiple days.
Everything looks green. Because this room is green. Why? This looks like so bad.
For dinner, I wanted something super cozy, warming, and just rice noodles. I love rice noodles so much. So we're starting off by sauteing some portobello mushrooms and onion on medium heat in some olive oil, chopping up some garlic, and also cubing some tofu. We're going to throw some soy sauce in here along with some water. We want to keep the flavor of the mushrooms. Although I tell you to never crowd or add salt to your mushrooms to brown them, if we're trying to make a soup, we want the flavor of the mushrooms to stay in the soup. We're not trying to brown it. So once I got the broth in there, seasoned it with a bit of salt, some spices, I let that do its thing for about 15 minutes before adding some rice noodles in there, and then just chucking everything in a bowl and thoroughly enjoying. You can cook your rice noodles separately, but I had the perfect amount of soup here. Actually, I had some leftovers, but I thought I had the perfect amount of soup, so I just chucked it in and served myself the entirety of what I made. But good morning. Starting today off with some tea and some granola bars as well. I just had 2 little granola bar squares, and then I felt like something more savory, so I mashed up some tofu, adding a clove of garlic, finally chopping up some red onions, slicing up some tomato, seasoning the tofu with black pepper, chili flakes, onion powder, basil, oregano, salt, mixing that all together. And I would recommend using vegan mayo for this, but I did not have any, so I just threw in some vegan broth to get the tofu to be a little bit more creamy and not crumbly. Throwing the mixture on some delicious bread that I had left over, just kind of hanging out. Tip: to stay on a budget, use what you have in the house. Don't let anything go to waste. Top this off with some fresh tomato, and I'm going to give it a good drizzle of balsamic vinegar as well, because if you know me, you know I'm obsessed, and anytime I eat bread, there's gotta be balsamic vinegar with it. We're going to dive into this absolutely delicious Italian eggplant stew. I highly recommend this recipe. It is full of flavor and just so good. Okay, we got some onion into the pot in some olive oil. We're letting that saute as we are chopping our eggplant into some bite-sized pieces, throwing in some minced garlic in there once the onion had become translucent and started to brown. While that was warming up and becoming fragrant, I chopped up some zucchini, chucking that into the pan with the eggplant. We're letting that sweat out, get all the juices kind of rendering as we chop up some potato and some tomato. Giving everything a good stir, seasoning it with salt, pepper, oregano, basil, and some chili flakes. The simplicity of this is so key because you get so much flavor from the eggplant actually, but not in a gross way. Throwing our tomato and tomato paste in the pot along with our potato. I love saying potato and tomato together. It's so funny. I didn't have enough broth to throw the entirety of the liquid of this stew with broth, but a little bit of broth, a little bit of water, and then let that do its thing for about 30 minutes to really cook everything, break everything down, and get all of the flavors absorbed. There's no protein in this dish, so if you wanted to add a little bit of protein, I would recommend adding peas and or some chickpeas. For dinner, I just kind of munched on leftovers on this evening, so I had that leftover rice noodle soup. I then also made myself a hot chocolate because to me, hot chocolate is like a whole food group. It's a whole meal. It's a whole vibe. It's a whole everything. It is life. And I believe it's where the life of the universe spawned from. Cocoa powder. So good. So I sipped on that, and then a little bit later I also munched on some of the leftover rice chickpea dish as me and the roommates played some cards. And good morning. A weird kind of smoothie thing that I'm making this morning because there was no ice in the house, but we got some oat milk, banana, peanut butter, of course, cocoa powder, and the only protein powder that I had available was this matcha one. I would recommend using a vanilla or chocolate protein powder, but use what you have in the house. Essentially, you could just blend up banana and peanut butter and some oat milk or water, ice. Enjoy that as your breakfast. For lunch, we got some leftover Italian eggplant soup and some leftover bread as well. This was absolutely delicious the day that it was made, but even better the next day. The flavors just marinated together and drizzled some balsamic glaze on top, and then had to have a second bowl. After spending a lot of time on my laptop today, I wanted a real hearty meal, so started off by chopping up a half of an onion, some celery, and some carrot, the classic soup ingredients here, and also minced up some garlic. As the pot was warming up, I filled some time by chopping up the spinach, but first things first, we're throwing in the onion, carrot, and celery, along with some olive oil, allowing that to become translucent, throwing in our garlic, and then seasoning it all with a good amount of salt, pepper, chili flakes, thyme, bay leaves, oregano, and some basil. Mixing that together and allowing it to warm up for about 20 seconds before adding our veggie broth, tomato paste, and a half a cup of barley. After about 15 to 20 minutes of the barley cooking, it does take some time, so give it time. I threw in the spinach along with some balsamic vinegar, and about 10 minutes before I decided to serve, I threw some red split lentils. They only take about 10 minutes to cook, so that's why I threw them in last. And I didn't want it to be like an overcooked lentil stew. I had a small bowl of that. It's quite filling. And then I had a craving for noodles. So I cooked up some rice noodles, and I'm going to make a little sauce with soy sauce, gochujaro spice, peanut butter, rice vinegar, and a drizzle of maple syrup as well. We're just going to stir that on up, throw it on our rice noodles, and that's it. That's the meal. That's the vibe. Just super simple, easy, kind of college dorm room food, but
Be famous.
A question I have for the world is, why is granola like $10 a bag in the grocery store? I don't know. We're gonna throw some oats in here, coconut chips, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, chia seeds, sesame seeds, cinnamon, and a pinch of salt. We're just chucking everything that we have in the house available that would go in granola into this bowl. We also added tahini and maple syrup. I love using tahini as a combiner for granola. I don't know why, but I first discovered this about 2 years ago. Anyways, full recipe down below. I went through all of the trouble of making granola and then ended up not feeling granola for breakfast, so I decided to just warm up some leftover barley lentil soup. This, again, it's so filling. Like, you have a bowl like this and you are so satisfied for like 5 hours.
Nice, look at that.
So because I started off the day with a good bowl of savory soup, I felt like something sweet and breakfasty for lunch. Having some granola with banana and oat milk, I am using store-bought oat milk, which tends to be kind of expensive. I just already had it in the house, and like I said, you gotta use what you have in the house already. I have shown you how to make homemade oat milk and cashew milk many times on this channel, so if you want some milk in the house, I'll link that video down below. Now moving on to a recipe I feel like needs to be in every single Budget Eats video, a lentil curry. We started off by sauteing up that onion and celery, threw in a bunch of spices, allowed those spices to warm up for a hot minute, adding a can of coconut milk and some tomato paste, mixing that together, and then chopping up some cilantro. Because the only lentils I have in the house are those red split lentils, I just allowed that mixture to kind of become very fragrant and marinated before I threw in the lentils, because like I said, they only take about 10 minutes to cook. Throwing in some spinach for a little bit of greenness, seasoning everything with the right amount of salt. You just gotta taste as you go, and if you feel like it's missing something, it's probably missing salt. So just throw in a good pinch, and then you're done. I served the curry up with some long grain basmati rice and a good amount of green onion. This was so flavorful, delicious, and filling. And good morning. I did start today off with a coffee and a hot chocolate. I don't know where that footage went. I lost it, but then we had a big bowl of that barley lentil soup. I was legitimately satisfied for the entire day until dinner. So here we are making dinner, chopping up sweet potato, carrot. We did some garlic and onion, waiting for our pan to warm up. Chopping up some regular potato as well, some red potato. We're just doing all of the chopping before we get frying. Throwing in a good amount of olive oil to our warm pan, along with our onion, carrot, and after a couple minutes, our garlic as well. Throwing in some garam masala, chipotle, coriander, turmeric, cumin, and black pepper, warming up those spices for about 30 seconds before throwing in our sweet potato and our regular potato, mixing that on up and adding some water and some tomato paste, a good pinch of salt, and I actually decided to add a little bit of sugar to this meal. I just felt like the richness of the spices needed a little bit of contrast with some sugar, and for some fresh herby flavor, I added a decent amount of cilantro. I allowed everything to cook until the potatoes were almost done, and then threw in some frozen peas. I cooked up some rice noodles, and yes, I am changing my ways. I am putting rice noodles in a bowl with hot water, and I'm not boiling them on the stove anymore because I've had enough of reading comments telling me to do this and me just still deciding in my ignorance not to. It is better. This is better. It's better to just put hot water in a bowl with your rice noodles, put a plate over it, and allow it to do its thing. I really hope you enjoyed today's video and got some value out of it and make some of these recipes. If you do, let me know down in the comments. Hit the like button and subscribe button. I truly appreciate it, and I'll see you again so very soon. Lots of love. Mwah!